Welcome, you guys. So, on this episode, I am going to discuss how you won't believe how transactional relationships have become. So, stay tuned. We're going to talk about the state of dating and relationships in modern times. Here we go.
Oh, nothing. I'm just sitting here thinking about how the patriarchy is literally energetic theft. Like it's an energetic transfer from women to know that they do not possess the same kind of energy as we do. And they also know at the same time that they wouldn't be able to survive without our energy and without the things that we provide. This is like very practically obvious, right? It's not some kind of big, well kept secret. Everybody knows this, especially the women. But when you look at men and women that are in relationships, it's typically the men that are doing better. Unless the relationship is reciprocal and mutual and based on mutual good energy coming in, there is going to be one person that resembles a parasite and one person that resembles a once healthy organism that has been overtaken by a parasite. The patriarchy takes a lot of things away from men, and one of them is their feminine energy, which is what you need to manifest. You both energies working in tandem in order to be like a fully functioning organism, but also in order to manifest. And when I say manifest, I don't mean like woo woo, no spirituality. I mean literally make things happen, have the life you want. Without women, very few men have the life that they want. They need the woman's energy in order to be able to manifest or bring things into their life that they feel like they want. This is why men tend to try and trap women in marriage, in relationships, in society. They're the ones that baby trap us, etc., because they
Man, stay with me, guys. Just stay with me. I know she's cooking, as they say, but I'm going to give my opinion after the video. So just stay tuned.
need access to our energy. And when you deny certain parts of yourself, you cannot manifest out of that. You cannot manifest out of an incomplete place. You know, the best you can do is hurt and oppress. Like, again, women know this. Women know this very clearly. That is the type of energy that men bring to the table of our society.
Okay. So I'm going to play a couple videos on what people think, what the women are saying, right?
The world isn't falling apart because men have all the power. The world is falling apart because men don't have power to say no to the psycho above them who's signing their paychecks. And at every level of the hierarchy is a spineless man who doesn't have it in him to push back on any of the insanity and policies dictated by the dude who's responsible for paying his bills. If the world was run by women, let me tell you, man, the first time a girl or a woman came up with some dumb idea, there'd be one girl in the back being like, pick me. There'd be another girl on the side being like, that's just internalized misogyny. There'd be like some third girl somewhere being like, you're just jealous. And so the world would be a better place. It's the lack of power that they have that enables this kind of idiocy. Think about it. The world isn't falling apart because men have all the power. The world is falling apart.
Man. Now, meanwhile, while this is going on, this is also going on. Men have almost completely stopped approaching women. But when you have women as have this type of ideology talking about basically why men are poison, why are we confused as to why guys are staying away from women?
So why do men no longer come up to women? I asked this in a TikTok last week, and it got so many comments, especially from men. And I just want to preface this with, this was no shade to men, this post was no shade to men, and neither is this one. I was just genuinely curious and asking. I love men, I think they're awesome, and I think that they're a little confused right now. But most of the responses said something like, we were told not to go up to you guys, and we were told that you want to be left alone, and you just want your own space, and you don't want us approaching you. Which for some women, that can absolutely be true, but I love meeting people in person, and I just think that it takes a confident person to go up to someone when you see them in person, and I think it's a really cool way to meet people rather than meeting people online. Men were also saying things like they were called creeps and weirdos, and they don't want to be called that. It's not a pleasant experience. But I will say that it has to do with how you approach a woman. Like, for example, myself and my friends have had men come up to us with a really, really intense energy, like a very in-your-face energy, and they're really nervous and they're kind of scattered and they're very pushy or weird, and their energy is just off. And one of the most attractive things to a woman is emotional intelligence, and that shows within like the first few seconds of meeting someone. When they introduce themselves up to a woman, just like take a calm, deep breath. If you see a woman working on her laptop or something at a cafe, you can go up to her and be like, hey, my name is so-and-so. I thought you were really beautiful and you seem interesting. I would love to get to know you more if you're interested. And then slipping her your number on a napkin or something.
Guys, a lot of guys a lot of guys are avoiding women because they don't want to risk their safety and security entering into a physical relationship with the opposite sex. You have a lot of guys who fear that by entering into a relationship, guys, that their safety and security will be in jeopardy. I think guys want intimate relationships with women, but I think that the external force of the government is putting guys in a position where if they approach a woman, it can be very risky. We're living in times that are very we're living in a time that's very transactional, guys, where a person can basically come up off of ending the relationship or by stating that uh they were accosted in the relationship. So let's talk about gender roles and how all of this is really a problem that comes from the attempt to feminize the male psyche and overcorrect historical injustices for women. What do I mean by that? Yes, it's true that women at certain periods of time couldn't do this or couldn't do that. But now we're living in a time where women have the agency to work and do certain things. So we're going to get into this, right?
I saw a TikTok from a woman where she was like, can we talk about the unintended outcomes of like celibacy and not dating? And I was like, oh boy, howdy, can we? She says outcomes, I say consequences. And consequences aren't always bad. But anyway, let's get into it. Initially, like, first of all, let me tell you why I quit dating. The biggest reason was because I could see myself heading down the road towards another unhealthy pattern in relationships, and I just knew that if I did that again, things were not going to go well for me. And it's also not fair to the other person involved. So I decided to just not date.
Hold on, guys. Let me share my screen again. Sometimes I gotta drop some game. So what she was saying is that once again, and this is the problem a lot of young people are having, guys, that they want the belongingness and love, but for some reason since things are so transactional, we feel that we will forego our safety needs in order to get it because it requires ability in order to get belongingness and love, right? At least that's my thoughts. That's what I think.
And all over again. So there's that. The unintended outcome has been that I have learned a lot about men. The intended one was I learned a lot about myself, which I have. The unintended is that I've learned a lot about men. And it hasn't been particularly flattering. And I want to say this before I get into the nitty-gritty. I have learned from 20 years of working in psych that if you find yourself feeling defensive about something someone has said, it's because there is a kernel of truth in it that you know is inside of you and you don't like it, and so you're trying to distance yourself from that because you don't want to face it. So if I say something and you find yourself feeling defensive, instead of pushing back on that and running away from it, lean into that discomfort. If you're strong and brave enough, figure out what that truth is and then decide what you're going to do with it. Are you going to do better, or are you going to keep doing the same shit? So here we go. Unintended consequences. The first one is that men don't like us. Like on a grand scale, they're not interested in who we are. They're just interested in what we are, which brings me to the next thing that I learned. Men don't see us as human. They see us as serving a role or, being a tool or whatever for them in their life. But they sure as shit don't see us as people.
Who did she meet? You know how extreme that is, guys? When someone would say that they don't even see you as a human being? Man, whoever she dated or whatever happened in her household growing up that led her to categorize all guys like this is a problem. You know how deep that is, what she just said, guys?
Not interested in who we are. They're just interested in what we are, which brings me to the next thing that I learned. Men don't see us as human beings.
We don't see. Man. I'm a man, if I don't see you as a human being, what do I see you as? She's trying to say that we view them solely as objects, mainly sexual objects. And this would be just untrue because you can't have it both ways. I mean, you can't have it both ways. If she becomes a mother, there's a 50-50 chance that she could have a son. If she has a son, is the son going to view her that way? You get where I'm going with this? Why do we act as though men do not have deep psychological and spiritual and emotional relationships with women, as if we're just from another planet or something like that? Men have mothers, aunts, grandmothers, sisters, friends that's females. How we're not going to view you as a human being? Is grandma not a human being? Is mom not a human being? Is my aunt not a human being? Is my teacher not a human being? Come on, man. Some of the stuff that people say, and she's working in some type of mental health field and not making any sense.
See us as serving a role or, being a tool or whatever for them in their life. But they sure as shit don't see us as people.
Guys, that's so extreme. Man, that's so extreme. That is extreme, guys. I'm not exaggerating. This is extreme. Let me rewind it.
So here we go. Unintended consequences. The first one is that men don't like us. Like on a grand scale, men don't like women. They're not interested in who we are. They're just interested in what we are, which brings me to the next thing that I learned. Men don't see us as human beings. They see us as serving a role or, being a tool or whatever for them in their life. But they sure as shit don't see us as people. Like at all. And that was like, realizing these two things came very quickly. In fact, I don't even remember which one I realized first.
Now, this gets back to my point on you won't believe how transactional relationships have become. That's why I titled this video that, guys, because they have people that's thinking like this, right? And I wish that it was just one person, but it's a plethora of people that think this way, guys.
I think a lot of people are very naive to the fact that it is very specifically when it comes to parenting. A lot of people asked on this video how I stayed with somebody who wasn't an equal partner, especially after having multiple kids. And here's the thing. I had been with my husband for 10 years before we got married. I think 12 or 13 years before we had kids. And our relationship was incredibly equitable. It always was. But having kids vastly changed the dynamic of our relationships because so much of this is societal. It is ingrained in us what it looks like to be a good mother, what it looks like to be a good father. And as we know, women are held to an incredibly high standard, and I held myself to that standard. And so I dove head first into motherhood, and he dove head first into fatherhood in a way that he saw was appropriate, right? He did 1,000 times more than our dads did, right? Our generation of dads did. And he was always present, and he was always participating in bath time and bedtime and all of those things. But he didn't own any aspect of it, right? I was still in charge of everything, of the kids' schedules, of the daycare, of everything. And so it wasn't equitable. I was doing so much more work.
What, man? And this is the transactional part. She hit a transactional word. It wasn't equitable. She acknowledged just
Incredibly
now.
high standard. And
She acknowledged how this guy that she's married to showed up, worked, was present, was there every step of the way. Then she stated it wasn't equitable. What does that mean? That means she's keeping score, you guys. When we keep score in relationships, that makes it transactional. It automatically makes it transactional. And what I'm realizing is that a lot of women seem to dislike being mothers. That's really what we're getting at. I'm going to save my opinion. I'm going to play the video.
I held myself to that standard. And so I dove head first into motherhood, and he dove head first into fatherhood in a way that he saw was appropriate, right? He did 1,000 times more than our dads did, right?
He 1,000 times more than what her dad or his dad did in regards to the children. And she's about to still find a way to put him down into the whole internet, you guys. The whole internet. I don't even know these people, and I'm making a stitch video about this. And this is what a lot of guys do feel disrespected in their long-term relationships, even if they're never going to say it. The average man is not going to come to the internet and say, man, my lady is a good woman, X, Y, and Z, but she should do this more. Guys just don't operate like that. But women do. Not all women. Let me regress. Not all women, but it's enough that'll get on the internet and completely bash the guy that she married instead of holding him up as like on a pedestal and saying like, hey, this is my husband. They get right on the internet and just find a reason to just belittle the guy.
Generation of dads did. And he was always present, and he was always participating in bath time and bedtime and all of those things. But he didn't own any aspect of it.
What are you talking about? Man.
right? I was still in charge of everything of
You're the mom. And then if, let's say, he did own every aspect of it, then you would complain about a patriarchy. Oh, men want to rule everything. Guys are just in a weird position, man. If they're present, they get demonized for being present or criticized for being present. If they're absent, they're criticized for being absent. If they are there every step of the way sharing the roles, is still a problem. If the guy is middle class, working everyday Joe, he should be rich. If he's rich, he's criticized for being rich and being able to outsource help for her. And I'm not bashing women. I love women. But it's like we have a hard time figuring out on an individual basis, even on the group basis, like, what do you guys want? What ladies, what do you want from us? We're confused. And it seems as though you're confused. So we have to find a way to end the confusion. Because I'm clear why I'm here. If I'm in a relationship, I'm clear why I'm in that relationship. I'm clear on what I'm supposed to be doing. And maybe he thought the same thing. He probably thought that he was doing what he should be doing. I'm sorry, but let me just go back.
into fatherhood in a way that he saw was appropriate, right?
That's why I said that, okay?
He did 1,000 times more than our dads did, right? Our generation of dads did. And he was always present and he was always participating in bath time and bedtime and all of those things. But he didn't own any aspect of it, right? I was still in charge of everything, of the kids' schedules, of the daycare, of everything. And so it wasn't equitable. I was doing so much more work while working full time than he was, specifically when it came to the kids. And people say, well, how did you not know? And how did you have 4 kids? We went from no kids to 4 kids very quickly because we are adoptive parents. And here's the thing. It's like a snowball. You don't realize it's happening until it picks up speed, and then it's really gotten away from you. And so it felt like one day I woke up and my eyes opened and I realized, oh my God, we ended up somewhere I never wanted to be, where we never.
That's the problem right there. If you don't want to be a parent, and sometimes I admit we don't know this until we're in it. And I think this is the realization that a lot of women are having. And we don't want to say this because so many women do struggle to conceive. So many women do still put motherhood on the pedestal. And we don't like to talk about the fact that a lot of women can be mothers but are not necessarily nurturers. And I'm not trying to demonize women. I'm not, because we already see a lot of guys that struggle to be fathers. But God forbid we talk about women. And basically this whole statement was more about her than it was for him. She said all of this to really talk about her. And she just stated it right here, guys.
We ended up somewhere. How did you not know? And how did you have 4 kids? We went from no kids to 4 kids very quickly because we are adoptive parents. And here's the thing. It's like a snowball. You don't realize it's happening until it picks up speed, and then it's really gotten away from you. And so it felt like one day I woke up and my eyes opened and I realized, oh my God, we ended up somewhere I never wanted to be, where we never wanted to be, where I'm drowning. And
Bingo. This is how relationships have become so transactional, guys, because we are trying to keep score, and it's not working. I don't think we can keep score in a relationship.
This is why I don't do it. Because men do not have the societal expectation to write thank you cards, to get gifts for birthday parties, to RSVP to invites. They just don't have that same social pressure, so they don't do it. It doesn't matter if they were raised and their mom made them do it or their grandma made them do that. They end up living in the world and cutting out anything that is not necessary of them, unless they get into a relationship with a woman who is like, hey, you have to do this or it looks bad on me, which is my
Women are like, And it goes back to what the previous lady say, men don't like women. Nah, I don't think that's it. I think that men don't really care what other men think of them for the most part. Women care a lot about what other women think of them most of the time. And guys are like, why do you care? Most guys look at the world and like, yo, it's hard when we walk outside those doors, man.
Discourse happening around the Sabrina Carpenter cover makes me think a lot of things, and I've shared my opinions on the cover itself already. But one thing that it really does bring to the forefront is that when women misstep, other women are so quick to call it out, to start the conversation, to be criticizing. And I do not see that happen in the same spheres with men. If men do
Are you kidding me? Men criticize men all the time. We have entire man. I just think like how do we grow up in the same world and we view things so differently?
do something wrong, if men misbehave, if men do something disrespectful or harmful, other men are literally not bringing their pitchforks to talk about how wrong that behavior was.
Right. That's why we have presidents that have impeached, right? Who you think are holding them accountable? That's why we don't have people lose licenses and stuff like that. Come on, man. Some of the stuff that they talk about is like is
I often see a lot of men on here glamorizing gender roles and wanting to go back to historical gender roles that men and women were assumed to adhere to. Which I think is very interesting, especially because most of the time when these men are talking about gender roles, they're specifically talking about what gender roles they want women to fit back into, where they want women to be, and how little or much they want to hear from women based on what they know about history. So sure, let's hypothetically say we revert back to traditional gender roles. I become a mother, a wife, a homemaker. I do the cooking, cleaning, I raise the children. What are you doing? I think a lot of males are imagining that they have some kind of high-paying job in real estate and they're out there shaking hands, wearing top hats, hitting the brothel on the way home. And the wife knows, but she can't say anything because she's not allowed to speak unless spoken to. The kids are in bed when you get home, dinner's made, your wife has to wait on you hand and foot, and you get to do it all again tomorrow. This was not the experience of the average man. This is noblemen, businessmen, men born into wealth. And the men that are claiming they want to go back to these traditional gender roles more often than not would not have had it this easy. When we say men used to go to war, it's not because there aren't still wars going on that are being fought by men and women, and it's not because we want men to go back to the battlefields necessarily. It's because back then men didn't have a choice on whether or not they were going to war. So when we say men used to go to war, it's to emphasize how much easier men's lives have gotten while they continue to make ours harder. Even if you weren't
how? I could only assume by what she said that by harder means that women can become mothers. It's almost as though, and to absorb this type of thinking, a woman has to literally become anti-women. Am I wrong? It's as if to become a feminist, and that you have to define what that means, is like you would have to become anti-woman. Now, meanwhile, while all this is going on and everyone is anti-parenting and no one wants to be parents, let's bring the teachers into it and see what the teachers are saying about the kids.
Through 12 students, literacy has not gone back to pre-pandemic levels when we look at K through 12 kids. And there was a lot of different theories and research behind this, but I personally think a lot of it has to do with the lack of guidance at home.
But wait a minute, we just seen a video of a lady talking about gender roles and women don't want to be at home and women shouldn't do. That's what she was really getting at. So if you have a plethora, generations at this point of women who don't want to spend time with their own children or a child, and dad is still forced to go out there and work, Are you surprised that the kids can't read?
And because when we look at the 80s and 90s, there was always a stay-at-home parent to help kids with their homework, to promote, reading and good literacy habits. Because, reading was just more popular back then because we didn't have phones or social media. But now, since most households cannot afford to be a one income household and both parents have to work, there's no one at home to really steer kids in a good educational direction. Kids are usually just left to themselves and their devices. And we can really only see like parents, taking their kids to like educational, like Kumon or Mathnasium or whatever, or, helping them read or reading books with them. We only see that in upper middle class and wealthy families because those are the families that can afford to stay home and teach their kids how to read and learn. But we don't really see that with working class and middle class families anymore because now both parents need to work in order to survive. And so I think the lack of parental guidance is a huge factor in why these kids cannot read because they're just not getting that supplemental information at home. But it's not really I don't want to blame the parents because, again, you need to work to survive. So I don't know what we would do from now to promote reading.
She has a good head on her shoulders. That's great commentary. It's the environment, you guys. The environment is why we have become so transactional, right? And now we are replacing human interactions with things that don't really matter. But let me go back to one of the bigger issues that we're having to prove how transactional it is.
I've never been the baby mom that needed the court to step in and say, hey, this man deserves to be a father. Ever. Since the minute that I decided to leave because of how I was being treated, I said, just be there for your kids. I don't care about our problems. I'm not going to let our problems interfere with you being a father. My issue is when you don't handle your responsibility and you put it all on me, that's a problem. Oh, you can handle being a single mom. You can handle all the bills. You don't deserve child support. You don't deserve help. No, we're not doing that. I am going to hold a man accountable.
Man, the kids suffer so much. Almost, almost, I'm not going to say I do feel empathy for the children. Imagine growing up in a household and this is your mom and your dad is, you know, and your mom is at odds with one another. That can't be healthy. Now, the environment that the parents are in, this lady, her man, is unhealthy also. They're reacting to their environment. Rent prices, healthcare, gender roles. So much is out of their control. And they blame one another. She's blaming her man. Her man is blaming her when they should be working as a team. Now the team is wanting to eat one another.
I never needed the court, and I don't even have a court order now. I could just not let someone see my kids after. You guys don't know anything that I've been through. But let's make something very clear. I have given someone an opportunity to be there. And after over a year of not getting no help, I was like, I am filing for child support. I'm not.
You won't believe how transactional relationships have become. Very transactional, you guys.
I just wanted to talk about what my ex's basis because there's been a lot of people saying get a job and that's so much money. So first and foremost, he is ordered to pay $2,900 a month. Okay, that is what his current child support obligation is. When we first split up and
Man, it's so hard for me to listen, but I gotta listen because the people need to hear this. Man, this is the state of modern adult relationships, guys. It's like Very transactional. We can't even get past it. And relationships do have a part that, makes sense to be transactional. But then it's like let me go back. We have belongingness and love needs, esteem needs. We have psychological needs, spiritual needs, self-fulfillment needs. But we're stuck on the basic needs. We're stuck on basic stuff that should be common sense. And these are the adults, man. I'm sorry. I'm not judging you, but I don't like the situation. The situation is bogus, man. And it's not just you, it's all of these people on the internet, man. Because we have to think about the children. I just played the video, the kids can't even read. And these people are going to grow up. We're going to get old. They're going to grow up. And then they're going to be in positions of power running our country. And they can't even read on grade level. Why? Because mom is doing something, dad is doing something, no one's with the kids. And we're out here chasing what? Material things. Oh, at least I got a big house. Or I made 6 figures this year. Or I'm going to write this off on my taxes. Man, but what about self-fulfillment? What about your kids?
First went to court. Of course, he was like, I don't want to be signed up for child support, as if he had a choice. So that was
As if he had a choice. We still don't get it.
his intent from the get-go was to never be financially responsible for our children. So obviously the court
His intent, why did you have children plural?
in our state didn't see it that way. So they took his income and they took my income, they put it together, and they have a formula that they do. So based on our incomes, they determine per child, so we have 2 children together, that our children, the cost of them is about 33% of our gross income. Based on that, then what they do is they kind of peel back. So I carry health and dental benefits. So therefore, if we're supposed to be paying, let's say $5,000 split between the 2 of us, mine's a little less because I'm already putting that money out for them. So then they would say,
marriage just be easier to a degree? Like, I know so many people fear marriage because there's safety and security. Oh, she's going to take my stuff. Oh, he's going to tell me what to do. But then we end up in situations like this. And you still have to deal with the other person. And then they have the audacity, both parties, male and female, whatever you're in. But they're going to go, and then they're going to go date somebody else and bring somebody else that had nothing to do with all of this drama into their situation.
okay, $2,500, she's expected to pay, he's expected to pay, and that's how it kind of works. And then also, an important fact that I want to highlight is that child support is support for the parent who has the children. I have our children full-time. I'm going to say full-time plus, because I have them full-time plus I have them all the times he doesn't.
Well, ma'am, if he has to work because you're getting $3,000 a month from him, I'm pretty sure a lot of that time he's not with the kids, he's working. Sometimes women play this game, not all women, some women play this game. Like, when the dad is at work, he's an absentee dad. But it's like, if he didn't work, then you couldn't get the money that you're taking him to court for. And mind you, guys, he still has to sleep. And most guys only make about $45,000-$50,000 a year. Not to mention how much the government takes out for taxes, 20%. So let's say a guy made 70 and he took home like 48,000. And then out of the 48,000, however much gotta go to her. Come on, man. And then she has the audacity. Now, if he's paying 3,000 or 2,900, he's probably making six figures or close to it. But she's purposely not working as much so that she can get more money from him. It's transactional.
Want to take them for his very infrequent weekends. So I am 100% the primary parent. So when we first went for child support, it was determined that he would be paying $350 a week, which is $1,400 a month. That did not include childcare. So like I said, that they take out certain amounts. So they consider the fact that I'm paying health and dental. I was also paying half of childcare, as was he. So they pull both of those amounts out of our final obligation. So he was paying $1,000 in childcare out of pocket. I was paying $1,000. So they didn't add that into his child support obligation. Additionally, when it was first set, when we had filed in court, he decided he was going to stop helping out any payments. He was only helping out with childcare, but he decided he's not going to do anything until we get a final support order. So I think it took us about 8 months to get a final support order. And then I asked them to retro it back to.
Ooh. Oh, man. Oh, man.
When he had filed, because he hadn't provided any support for the children between then and when we got the date.
She's in bliss. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, you think that this woman is depressed or something like that, or like sad? She's not sad. She's not depressed. She got 18 years of income coming in. But the major point that I want to get into when it gets to these gender roles, going back to that, is that what it seems like, what I hear, and I could be wrong, it seems as though women dislike the fact that they can become mothers, which is restricted to their gender. Women have babies, guys, or have the potential to have babies. And it's like the one thing that make women really, their womb. Not saying that if she doesn't have a baby, she's not a woman, but you get what I'm saying. They hate that in this modern times of transactional relationships.
I talk quite a bit about masculine and feminine roles within relationships, and so with that sometimes comes the topic of submission. It's very controversial. I know.
Man, all of these buzzwords, modern, traditional, gender roles. Man, it's like we're like, to say that humans have been alive for centuries, thousands of years at this point. Why are we so confused about what we're supposed to be doing? We should have this perfected to a science. And it's like we're getting less intelligent. The more the technology is there to make life easier. Think about this, guys. Okay, I've traveled to third world countries, right? I've been to Cuba. I remember I was in Cuba and a lady was washing clothes, guys, like the old school way, like by hand. In the first world country, you have a washer and dryer. You have water coming straight to your home. In some countries, guys, they have tanks that they use for water, right? You have a dishwasher. You can order food via an app and someone will bring it straight to your door. At some point, we gotta start being real and start saying like the gender roles for as if a woman chose to do certain things is not as heavy or hard of a job as it was maybe 60 years ago, because technology has increasingly made a lot easier for women. And that's either true or it's false. But with technology, it presents new challenges, right? Like the loss of intimacy between two people in a relationship and the cost of living that most guys take the brunt of the responsibility for after they have sexual intercourse with a woman and a child is born. Whether he's in a relationship with her, he has to deal with the responsibility of that. And whether the relationship ends, he's still responsible for that. So that hasn't changed.
I used to cringe at the word submissive. And of course, a lot of men tend to love that conversation. But I want to talk about that because the intention of that man and his relationship with God completely dictates how that dynamic plays out. Unfortunately, sometimes it can be a power struggle. Men can use that to their own advantage and manipulate, control, have authority over their partner. And in those cases, those men cannot actually have a healthy relationship with God if that is what's happening, because that's not the point. It's not because men are stronger or this or that and they should have more control or whatever. That's not what it is. There is this spiritual dance that can happen when a man is in a leadership role and a woman is in a receiving, serving role. Women are the perfect candidate for receiving and multiplying. We're really good at doing that. So that also means that if a man treats us poorly, oftentimes women